Story number 1. Boyfriend tells me to get over it. My boyfriend Dave and I started dating when we were about 15 years old. You can say we were high school sweethearts. In the year 2016, I helped him land a new warehouse job. Due to a higher increase in pay, we were all so excited for him to start. We celebrated by taking our 2-year-old to Disneyland at the time. I didn't know what was about to come. Dave finally started his job, and 2 months in, he starts to behave differently with me. This is when I started to get a gut feeling inside me. He started snapping at me for the most littlest of things. He stopped talking to me about work. Intimacy went from 4 times a week to him demanding it every day. It was around our anniversary in February when we were arguing through text when I asked him if there was someone else. He responded yes. My heart sank. The pain I felt. I never felt that pain in my life. It is not a pain I would wish on anyone. I called him. Voicemail. I called him again. Voicemail again. He texted me that he needed to go to work and could not talk. I went crazy. I felt weak, lightheaded. My heart and throat felt like it was going to explode. I couldn't pinpoint where I went wrong. The weekend came along, and it was February 14th. We talked. He swore nothing ever happened between them. His feelings were intense, and it wasn't planned. But he did not want to break up. I felt betrayed, hurt. I asked him to stop talking to her. Move departments. He said he can't stop talking to her. They work together. In my mind, I wondered how can someone not stop talking to someone else. I told him I understood it's work, but he could unfriend her and only talk to her when needed. He refused. I continued berating him, telling him if he does not stop talking to her, he loses me. He finally obliged. Months pass and I am still hurt by the situation. But, for some reason, there was a feeling deep in me that told me he was still talking to her. I brushed that feeling aside because of how in love I was with this man. Come the end of the year, I was transferred to the same workplace as my boyfriend. I didn't tell him. I waited until the week of my first day came. He was shocked. He didn't understand why I was being transferred to his building. Red flag number 1. He asked me to ask to move elsewhere. When I asked why it was so bad to be in the same workplace, he said there wasn't anything wrong with it. I probably would not like being there. I told him I was fine. I had no issue. And left it as that. My first day at the job, I meet amazing people. I had fun. I enjoy being around people. It was lunchtime. My friend and I find a table to sit and enjoy our lunch. When I see my boyfriend come in, he and his friends sit on the same table next to us. Picture this. There are 2 seats to his left vacant. I am on his right. His friend and my friend are facing us on the other side on the table. He introduces me to his friend. We then are talking about my first day when I get this feeling. It's weird. I look up and there's this female walking by around our table. She takes her seat to the left of my boyfriend. My heart sank as I felt my boyfriend tense up. I somehow knew it was her. He did not introduce me to her. Story number 2. Boyfriend who was begging me to move in cheated his ex, and I found the biological specimen, as forensic files would call it. We'd been dating for a few months, co-workers for about a year. At that point where you spend every night at one or the other's place. He'd been asking me to move in with him, and I was on the fence but leaning that way since it seemed silly for us both to be paying rent and one of the places just sitting empty. He called me at work and said his sister was having some crisis with her ex, so needed him to stay at her place to watch the kids. It felt a little off because the week before I noticed used feminine pads in his bathroom garbage, and when I asked, he said his sister had stayed there, but said a different one, and it just seemed strange. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt. The next day, he was totally AWOL, no answering phone or texts. At like 4 in the afternoon, I called the sister he said he was with and asked was she doing okay. She said fine, and I asked was he there, and she said no. Confused, like why would he be? So he finally shows up around 7 p. with a story about her car breaking down, etc., etc. At this point, I for sure knew he was totally lying, but thought I'd play normal and see if he'd be big enough to come clean. We go out to dinner, then go to his apartment and watch Forrest Gump. Meanwhile, the entire time he's being super nice and lovey, saying how he's the luckiest guy ever. He's so excited for this to be our place, and when can I start moving my stuff in? He falls asleep and I go to the bathroom, sitting there trying to decide how I should handle this. and I happened to see in the garbage a used Johnny hazmat suit, if you know what I mean. So then I knew without a doubt. I mentally pictured where all my things were, purse, shoes, etc., and just booked it outside as fast as I could and caught a cab. I found out later. He'd been with his ex, and she said asking her to move in, showing her the place, promising to buy her a horse. What the fuck? Needless to say, I now hate the movie Forrest Gump, and my name happens to be Jenny. So every time someone thinks they're being funny by saying my name with that Alabama twang, after I've asked them not to, I tell them it won't be so funny if they keep it up, and I end up kicking them in the crotch by PTSD. Proxy. Story number 3. Once a cheater, always a cheater. I met my girlfriend in 2017. We moved in together in 2018. At the end of 2018, she said she did not feel like we were a good match anymore. However, we kept talking and hanging out. Maybe because I moved states for her since she wanted to be close to her family. I took her out for her birthday in January of 2019. When I say a name pop up on her phone and she turned the phone away from me. In asking her brother, he said it may be her boss. He worked at the same place she did and said she seemed to have a weird relationship with him. The brother told me the boss's address. One night, when she said she couldn't come over to the apartment we shared before, I drove to her mom's house where she said she was staying. She wasn't there. I drove to her boss's house and saw her car parked in front. I called her out on it, and she admitted she cheated and was continuing to see both the boss and myself. Being a moron, but in love, I spent the better part of a year trying to win her back. All while she flew to Arizona to meet a guy she met online, told me she could really see herself living there with him, and still also talking to the boss. At some point, I finally went no contact for a few months, at which point she said she was sorry. She really loved me, and it was all an immature mistake. She promised this would be the end of anything else. I, still devastated and recovering from the worst year of my life, took her back. We moved into a new apartment. Then, the cheating happened again, briefly, through the end of 2019 with her boss. I, at this point, was at the lowest I have ever felt in my life. I took her back and we went through COVID lockdown together. We eventually moved into a house together where we have lived until now, January 2024. She came to me last Thursday after work and said we needed to talk. She said she no longer felt like we were compatible and didn't feel like I was a life partner for her. Just on Christmas, she had asked me to never leave her, and her best friend states she was just talking about marriage. I was blindsided. I sent flowers, a love letter apology, and a gift to her mom's where she was staying. Well, turns out, leopards don't change their stripes. She was cheating with a coworker at her new job and decided to leave me for him. I am devastated. I thought we finally got past what had happened. However, this time, I'm not sending the angry texts nor the begging her to come back. I will be leaving this state. I was approved to work remotely with my job and will be finishing up some projects over the next few months, getting things in order, and moving. She left our 2 cats, her grandpa's cat, a rat, and her goldfish and 120-gill fish tank. She left all her things here that I will need to sort through. Story number 4. Struggling with mental health. My boyfriend, 20 millions, and I, 19 fev, have been dating for a year and a half now. We met at college and instantly hit it off, but we were both in pretty toxic relationships at the time. We stayed friends, and were honest about the attraction we had, and eventually my relationship ended. He told me he was going to end his relationship, and I believed him, but I found out after about a month into our relationship that he hasn't left her. It made me feel horrible and gross. The worst part is he fully gaslighted me into believing that she was just crazy and wouldn't let him leave, and that's why she kept texting him. We ended up talking, and he opened up about how it didn't seem right at the time when he went home for the week to visit his family and break up with her. He also went to support his family with his brother's death, which I have verified was true. He then showed me proof he left her. I also dug and found that she had also been cheating on him for 2 years, which makes me feel less like a homewrecker. But we worked on rebuilding trust. Then a couple months ago, I found him calling me a bitch to one of our college friends. She wasn't really my friend as we had religious differences, and she didn't respect my boundaries, which caused me to have a breakdown. This sent me into a very bad depressive state, where my therapist made me start taking antidepressants and anxiety medication. We talked it out again, and he said he just didn't want to make her feel like he was brushing it off, and I had to explain that by doing that he showed he wouldn't put me first when it comes to her. He understood and cut off contact with her, and we have been good since. Now, the current issue, we moved into an apartment together with one of our other friends, and it was great. Unfortunately, he lost his job, so I have been supporting us, but I was okay with that because he didn't just do nothing. He still cleaned and cooked and drove me to work and back, which is a long commute. We were really happy and had both decided that I could go off birth control due to complications, and if something happened, it happened, and we would be happy. Then after New Year's, I found his hidden Reddit where he shared photos of himself along with posts about wanting to meet guys in our area. I didn't know what to do, so I waited until he went to get ready for bed. Then I left. I drove an hour away to my friend's house and told her everything. When he realized I left, he sent me a lot of messages trying to explain. He said he struggles with a porn addiction, and he felt like he was a burden for not being able to get a job, so he got depressed, which led to him relying on it more and a lot of other stuff. Apparently, he never actually met people, he just sexted with him because they were into some dark stuff. I have given him conditions that he needed to attend therapy and delete Reddit and all his dating sites, as well as allow me to go through his phone, and he has to get a job by the end of the month. He agreed, and it's been rough. The first 2 weeks I couldn't look at him or kiss him, and even now it feels like I'm faking when I do. He starts therapy on Monday, and still hasn't gotten a job, but I'm too nervous to bring it up because I don't want to upset him. As for going through his phone, I went through it once, but it just felt wrong and made me nervous with him watching me do it. I want to go through it again, but I'm scared it will damage our relationship more, but at the same time, I'm not sure I want to stay with him. I have 8 more months on my lease, but I'm considering moving in with my cousin after it's over. I've considered cheating on him or just trying to get upset with him so he can understand how I feel, but at the same time, I don't want to make him sad in any way. Story number 5. She cheated and still could not be honest. Hello, this is my story, and I guess I'm putting it here to vent, and also because I have yet to get over it. 23 millions. Unfortunately met Jane 20 Fahrenheits on a dating app. Personally, I think meeting people on dating apps to find a life partner is completely unrealistic, as I have friends who has had terrible experiences. So to my knowledge, dating apps are used more for hookups. The reason I was even on there was really because I wanted to see if I had game. Back to the story. We met on the app and got along right away. The 3-a-day rule was non-existent, because we got along surprisingly well. After a few days of consistently texting each other, we decided to exchange numbers and chat on Telegram. At this point, I was telling myself not to have any expectations from a girl I met online, but was curious to see where it would lead to. Getting to know her was wonderful. We had a lot of similar interests, and it was exciting. After only 2 days of texting, she asked me out on a movie date as we were both movie geeks. I agreed to it and was really excited to watch The Flash with her, as it was also her favorite superhero. After an embarrassing first date, we went on multiple dates after that, and feelings were slowly getting involved. We were already doing what couples do after a few months in. We both knew that what we had was exclusive but did not have a title. The reason for that is because none of us ever brought that topic up, as we were simply enjoying each other's company. But of course, inevitably there were some misunderstandings along the way, but we managed it. Sadly, after having a few misunderstandings with her, I saw her true character. Many people would call it red flags. For example, I was always the one planning the dates, and I always had to be the bigger person in every argument. She would say nasty things, but who doesn't? And I always thought that I had to be forgiving and mature in difficult times with her, basically be a gentleman even during hardship. But I guess I gave that energy to a person who did not deserve that. This is where it takes a turn. Jane had to go overseas for a school trip. It was only a 2-week trip, but, my God, little did I know those 2 weeks would be terrible. For some odd reason, we found ourselves constantly arguing when she was overseas, mainly because she didn't pay any attention to what I had to say about my day. She only cared about me listening to her day, and I confronted her about it. No matter how many times I explained, she still couldn't see what was wrong, and it ended up being a heated argument. So I decided to let her know that the argument got a little overwhelming for me and I needed space, and I would text her when I was feeling better. She said she respected that and told me to take care. After 2 days of calming myself down, I decided to text her. but she only replied hours later, which is very unlikely of her as she always has her phone with her. The country she was in has the same time zone as mine too, but it's whatever, I just assumed she was busy. And after 8 hours, she finally replied, and it was such a cold response. I had this feeling in my stomach that something was wrong. My gut told me to re-download the dating app that we met on, and to my unfortunate surprise, she was online. I may have forgotten to mention this, but we decided to delete the dating app together when we both acknowledged how serious we were getting. So seeing her online was a tragedy. My heart sank and pounded violently at the same time. It became a little hard to breathe, too. I think I was having a panic attack. I then tried to call her to ask what was going on, but she did not pick up. I called a few times as I desperately needed an answer, but she still did not pick up. So I waited until she came back from her trip so I can confront her in person. While waiting for her return, I was overthinking and spiraling at the same time. I had nasty images in my head as I started assuming what she has been up to overseas. After a few days of ignoring me, she decided to text me and agreed to talk in person. I already know what was going to happen, so I told myself to be as calm and respectful to her when I see her. And so she returned, and we met. She caught me up about the things I missed while we were not talking before I asked her what was wrong. And so, she told me that she has detachment issues. She said she should have been affected by my absence, but she was not. And while I needed space, she took the time to reflect too and realized that she was really heartless the way she treated me. I couldn't get upset, as I felt she was being honest, and so I respected everything she said. And then I asked why she went back on the dating app, and she was stunned. She took a few seconds to process my question and proceeded to tell me that she was not. I said I saw her online because I downloaded it just to make sure she wasn't on there, but she was. Eventually, she admitted that she was on there, and the reason she gave really pissed me off. She said she downloaded it back mainly because she was bored and she was only swiping on guys but never talking to them. Of course, in my head, I know it's BS, so I was still not pleased. I asked her if she was confident about what she said, and she said so I said, if you're that confident, then show me. And then she said she already deleted the app. I told her to download it back, and she did. What's interesting is when she did download it back, she couldn't log in somehow and was showing it to me on purpose. She tried a few times in front of me, and it was not working. If you don't know, the reason she was unable to log in was because she turned off the data for that app. She thought I had no clue, but I knew. So I acted and said it's okay. In my mind, if she was willing to go to these lengths, she is hiding something. And I think it would be better not to know, because God knows what I would have done. And so I decided to stay calm, and I said, it's okay. I just hope one day you will realize what I have done for you and be grateful for it. Today isn't that day. But when you do see everything, please do not come back and apologize, because I have already forgiven you, and my intentions with you were always genuine. I hope you find what you are looking for, and please do not treat the next guy the way you treated me. Take care. It was painful to say this, knowing I got betrayed, and she teared up while I was telling her that speech for some reason. I don't know how I managed to still be nice and calm when all I wanted to do was cry. After seeing her fake tears, I gave her a hug and left, and we have never spoken since. It has been months, and I am still wrecked over the betrayal. I would love to hear some advice from strangers here on how to properly get over this. All love. Story number 6. 5 years together, then took a break. Tried again for 5 months. For the bros. I enjoyed getting played the last 5 months of my life. Remember that saying, never give second chances? Yay, I won't be doing that ever again. Taylor and I reunited about 5 months ago. She messaged me. We were just chatting, and then it quickly moved into flirting stages. She told me all these things about how she's God's woman now and Lord and Savior is her hero. Yay, that worked out real well. I drove 13 hours to her in December for a doctor's appointment for her terrible stomach issues. Now I'm starting to think the issues were all anxiety and stress induced by playing both guys at the same time. I'm gonna keep his name out of this because he is a good guy, and he doesn't need the drama. Anyways, she told me she loved me every day. Told me how she can't wait to get married and have kids and do all of these things with me, when in reality she was just seeing which guy had the better fairy tale ending. It was all a big game. She went to Pennsylvania this week to visit her sisters, and she stayed at his house. She was supposed to stay in the guest bedroom, but when in reality it was in his bed. on his belly every day. She would literally call me right after he left at work and talk to me like she didn't just get railed. You wasted my money. You wasted my time. You wasted family's time. You wasted everyone's time. I drove 13 hours to you. You were so excited. We made out a lot. You told me how much you loved me. I bought you dinner, a new key to your house, some fuzzy socks, and we sat in the hotel and colored. It was nice. But obviously not nice enough. You destroyed me for the last time, Taylor. Never again will I ever go back to you. You need to figure out what you want to do with your life. You need to stop playing so many damn people, cause, honestly, it'd probably not just us. You broke me for the last time. I expect my full 650 back. I paid some of your bills, some of your food, your clothes. For what? Always trust your gut feeling. It's always right. And never let your girl sleep over another man's house. It's just a common fact. Nothing good ever comes from it. Story number 7. Gay Indian husband cheated. I met my male husband, 31 years old, on a gay dating app on March 10, 2019. We both hit it off wonderful. We married that year on New Year's Eve. We got a new build house December 17, 2019 as well. I'm male, 30 years old. Was still a virgin at the time and never had any experience being sexual. I came out in the year 2018. He was married previously to a 56-year-old closeted male. They was in an open relationship. The 56-year-old wasn't keen doing sexual things. After lockdown ended, since the year 2021, my husband visited his family in India for 7 weeks from November-December and would come back before New Year's Day. On December 15, 2023, he drunkenly confessed from the years 2021 to 2023 to letting men only suck him off. He has no remorse and doesn't regret ever doing it. He blamed me for it, as I have ADHD and autism. I struggle with my behavior and can't handle money correctly. I used to apply for credit cards and purchase things that isn't worth it. I got a car on finance as I was doing my driving lessons. I thought I would surprise him, as he mentioned previously of the car he liked to have in the future. So I got the one he liked to have. We spoke about his actions, but I keep talking about it every few days, and he doesn't like that I keep bringing it up. He goes sleeps in other spare bedroom. He doesn't speak to me for days. I can't stop feeling let down by it all. I try and be happy around him, but it's always in the back of my mind. Story number 8. I have a number. What should I do? Back in November, a random number called my 32 Fahrenheit's BF, 41 minutes. While we were together around 11:30 p.m., he said that it was a spam call from work. We got into an argument and he basically said that I don't trust him. Today, I saw that he received texts at 5 a.m. from that same number. This time, I saved it in my phone. I don't know what to do at this point. Do I call? Have someone else call? Confront the person? Do I call my BF out and see if he will tell me who it is? How would you navigate? Update to answer all questions. I know this number is not spam. Learn from a plug the name and address of the phone account's owner. But that's not the person that is using this phone. Think of it like head of household with multiple lines on their account. My BF and I have been together for a year. He's honestly weird about his phone. He's on it all day long, usually social media. I don't have social media and don't know his phone passcode. Anytime we get into an argument about his phone, he says I'm basically at fault for not automatically trusting him. I want to ask him to be transparent with me without him gaslighting me.